Hi, I'm Claudine Tong. As you know, Friday was May Day. I had planned to honor the people who have gone before me, doing the work, enduring the hardships, and sometimes making the ultimate sacrifice to make sure people they didn't know, who hadn't even been born yet, had better lives than they did, by participating in a general strike, shelter-in-place style, not going to work, and not shopping when I got a call asking me to work a phone bank. I took the job because I am an organizer, and the reason I'm an organizer is because of the people who went before me, my parents, Henry and Virginia Tong. My dad came over from China when he was 23 years old. My mom was the first daughter born in America and the first to graduate from high school. My dad worked from the time he was a 6-year-old boy in China until he was in his 70s when I was a teenager. They both worked long and varied careers, and they were both in unions. They not only voted in every election until he died, they were informed voters. I remember my father researching ballot measures, and my mom would send me pro and con articles and ask me if I'd remembered to vote when I was in college. They knew their neighbors and were active members of their community, ready to lend a helping hand or a cup of something. And they had lots of advice. They were able to do what they did because they were homeowners. They had security. Their hard work paid off for our family. And now we have families with 2 full-time employees who can't afford to pay rent. That's why I organize. In honor of my parents, Henry and Virginia Tong, and on behalf of the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, I welcome you to church this morning.
We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day.
We light this candle in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and work for the day in which Black lives are treated equitably with dignity and justice. We light this candle in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and work for the day in which Black lives are treated equitably with dignity and justice.
What is May Day? Originally, May Day started out as a celebration of the beginning of summer and the return of nice weather. In 1886, the American Federation of Labor, formerly known as the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Union, voted to call for a one-day general strike across the country to force employers to agree that 8 hours constitute a legal day's labor. 500,000 people participated in that one-day strike, but the fight for the 8-hour day continued for another half a century. In time, this became known as International Workers' Day. And today, in many places, including Oakland and Seattle, people take to the streets on May Day in support of worker and immigrant rights.
I'm a gardener. It's in my genes and it's in my soul. I learned it from my mother, not because she taught me, but because I watched her hundreds of times on her hands and knees working in the dirt with love and joy. I don't make food in my garden, I just try to make beauty. I like to do about 90% of the gardening myself, but there's times I need help, more help than my spouse could provide. So a few times a year, I've gone down to West Berkeley to pick someone up to help me from the streets. It never feels good to me. It seems like a demeaning process for undocumented workers to have to wait for hours in hopes that someone will pick you up. About 6 months ago on Nextdoor, I found a wonderful older gentleman who helps me with the garden 4 to 8 hours a month. His name is Ovidio. His help makes it possible for me to keep the garden looking beautiful and keeps my back from needing so much Advil. On this day when we honor workers, I especially want to lift up our undocumented workers. How many of us have people that have helped us in our homes, have cleaned our houses, have used nannies? Many of us have had friends, relatives, and loved ones who were unable to stay in their homes in the last days of their lives because an undocumented worker was a wonderful addition to a caregiving team. There's over 2.25 million undocumented workers in California. Most of them are taxpayers, and they pay about $3.2 billion a year in taxes, but usually they don't qualify for any unemployment. And right now, the few emergency programs that there are for very small amounts. Many people are fearful of asking for help from any program because of fear of deportation. What can we do? We can give to Oakland Undocumented Fund or the Stimulus Pledge that was started by Oakland Unified School District. We can advocate with the governor, who's doing such a great job, to include more emergency funding for agricultural workers. And we can make sure that when we get back to whatever the post-pandemic will look like, that we continue to advocate that so all undocumented workers have sick time, sick pay, and a decent living wage. And now, a word from Ovidio. Hi, Ovidio.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank
How
you.
long have you been in the United States?
25 years.
And where are you from?
I'm from El Salvador.
Uh-huh. What's particularly hard right now with this pandemic?
Yeah, the job is very slow.
So your garden work is really hard. Not as many people.
No, not too many people.
And I also know you're a DJ. What about that?
That is very slow too. It's very, very slow.
Mm-hmm.
I need customer.
You need more help. And
yes.
You've known many people that are undocumented over the years that not just in this pandemic, but need more help all the time.
Yes, I need more job.
Thank you, Ovidio, and
No
thank
problem.
you to all the nameless and sometimes unacknowledged people that plant and harvest our food, that take care of our children and our elderly, and do a million things that make our lives easier. May we make their lives a little easier.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well
Manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front by Wendell Berry, 1973.
Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head.
Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know.
So, friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it.
Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed.
Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns.
Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to Karian. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable.
Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth?
Go with your love to the fields. Lie easy in the shade. Rest your head in her lap.
Swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it.
Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox, who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction.
Practice resurrection.
These were days when history changed its course.
These were days in which history changed its course. Does that sound familiar? The COVID-19 virus has been one of those significant changes, both to our daily lives and to our future course. I am grateful for Bill and Claudine talking to us about their connections with labor, and I want us as a community to think about the larger lessons we can draw from this history. While most of the time we tend to think of modern working conditions as humane, 2 things are true. First, conditions are not always humane. Consider that in this time of extra need for deliveries and not having to leave home, Instacart strikers are trying to get better conditions and more safety. The workers are asking for things like personal protection equipment, paid leave, and hazard pay. But why am I asking you to consider this after May 1st? Well, one thing is that the struggle for labor rights has often, as Bill mentioned earlier, taken a long time. We can continue to be faithful to the workers who contribute to our lives by making choices consistent with their well-being. But then again, how does this tie into a pandemic situation? Here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to hold close, even in this time. I know, some things can seem really overwhelming. Big changes, not getting together, missing rites of passage, missing each other. And all that matters, and it's really true. Part of the healing we need in this time is to use our skills of looking at the big picture, of doing what Wendell Berry said, and investing in the millennium, practicing resurrection. In other words, when we talk about how it will be when we get back together, part of what we're talking about is that long view. Now, we're hoping we don't have to wait too long. And in the meantime, we can continue to make more justice. We can do as Mickey said and pay attention to those around us. We can make a difference for people who need their human rights, their person rights, their labor affirmed. So, just as we have often talked about more than one thing happening at a time, this is one of those cases. You can be in grief, and you can continue to make justice. You can struggle with being separate from one another in body and stay together in spirit. You can not be sure of what will come next and still extend your focus far out into the horizon, knowing that some things are true. Knowing that as we practice resurrection, it also means that we do not in any way give up. I love you so much. I know this time is really hard, and you're not wrong when you're upset. More than one thing can happen at a time, so honor your grief and continue to build the world that we all hope to live in, and heal the world that we have. You can do this. I know that for sure. As we're talking about labor today, one of the things I want to mention to you is the sit-down strike in Flint. It was in Flint, Michigan. It was in the late 30s. United Auto Workers was just forming a base of power, and General Motors didn't want to negotiate with them. Do you know that at that time, the people on the line, mostly men, were not allowed to talk in the lunchroom? That was one of the things that they were fighting for. They were fighting for consistent pay, safe conditions, and things like being able to talk in the lunchroom. So, in that end of December, they sat in the factory and didn't work. One of the workers yelled, "She's ours!" And they stayed. General Motors turned off the heat to the plant. There's a lot of good things about Michigan, but what I'll tell you is that the winter is cold. The men huddled up with blankets. They tried to figure what to do. General Motors wanted the governor to call the National Guard. And do you know what? He said he wouldn't. He said that he might call them to keep the public peace, but not to turn them on the workers, because that would be no telling how many people would be hurt or killed. Next, the police came. They filled that factory with tear gas. And then the women's brigade broke the windows. In the newsreel about the event, the person reporting says, you can see that it's not vandalism, it's a matter of necessity. Since then, the general mores around personal property and corporate property have changed, become stricter in some ways, with less corporate responsibility in other ways. But in the end, they won the right to be workers treated as people. This is the same thing we can do now. We can work for the future that we want to see. Lucy Parsons told us that many times people will submit to the way that things have always been, but the people who can imagine a new future must be dedicated to it. That's you. You can imagine something different than what we've already got, and you can continue to move toward it, even when there are quite a few things that we're not sure about. This is what we're meant to do, and we can do it together.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace
Hi, I'm Claudine Tong. I've been a member of First Unitarian since 2009, and I sing in Crescendo Choir and the Joyful Noise Band. I've also served on your Board of Trustees. The mission of this church is to build a radically inclusive community, to grow the beloved community by expanding the welcome table and deepening our commitments to countering oppression as an intentional, multiracial, multicultural, and multi-generational congregation. I know that most of you give a regular monthly pledge, and that for many of you, that pledge is the highest amount you are able to budget, and that was before the shelter in place. I'm not asking you to give money that you don't have, but if you are able to give something, this church is a responsible place to invest your money. I give because I support the justice work that we do, and because I also want to make sure we honor our UU values and we pay living wages or more to our clergy and staff. And so we have our church home to go back to when it's safe for all of us to gather together again. And so we can keep doing this, what we do, what keeps us coming back, and what gives me life for generations to come. Thank you for your generosity.
The giving link on the website brings you to this page. Click one-time donation and you get to this page. You roll to the bottom and you'll be able to put in the amount. You can also put a remark about your donation in the box on the right. Check the date and the amount on the bottom. And then you'll be able to click continue. That will take you to the payment page, credit or debit card, checking or savings. You can put your information and submit your gift. You can now give with the Give Plus app. Look for the Give Plus app. Link to instructions follows, and it's below the video in the description as well. The icon is similar to this one, a square, a gray word, a yellow word, and a plus sign. It'll be in your app store or in your apps for Android. When you download it, you'll go through a process of signing up. You can find instructions at bit.ly/giveplusinstructions. Type that whole thing into your browser after the http:// bit.ly/giveplusinstructions. Need help? Email the finance team. financeteam@uuoakland.org. Many thanks to the finance team for their work in making this possible.
My grandfather was a sailor, blew in off the water. My father was a farmer, and I, his only daughter, took up with an old good mill working man from Massachusetts, who died from too much whiskey and leaves me these three faces to feed. Mill work ain't easy, mill work ain't hard, mill work it ain't nothing but an awful boring job, waiting for a daydream to take me through the morning, put me in my coffee break where I can have a sandwich and remember. And it's me and my machine for the rest of the morning, for the rest of the afternoon, for the rest of my life. My mind begins to wander to the days back on the farm. I can see my father smiling at me, swinging on his arm. I can hear my granddad's stories about the storms out on Lake Erie. Vessels and cargoes and fortunes and sailors' lives were lost. And it's me and my machine for the rest of the morning, for the rest of the afternoon, for the rest of my life. If my life has been wasted and I have been the fool to let this manufacture use my me for a tool. I could ride home in the evening, staring at my hands, swearing by my sorrow that a young girl ought to stand a better chance. So me, I work the mills just as long as I am able, and never meet the man whose name is on the label. And it's me and my